All right. Hello, welcome to the live stream. Today we're going over how to increase flexibility and how to understand antagonist muscle movements. Now, if you've never heard of that, that's okay. We're going to go over that real quick first. So what is an antagonist muscle? So all muscles are actually set up in pairs. So let's look at, I'm going to show you an example using the arm. So in the arm here, the antagonist muscle to this movement is the tricep. You probably have heard of the bicep and the tricep. Those are a pair of muscles. One of them is the agonist, one of these is the antagonist. So anytime I'm moving, one muscle is the moving muscle and one's opposing it. That's that antagonist muscle. So what happens is as one contracts, the other has to relax. But if you have a tight muscle, that's going to actually limit that movement where it doesn't really fully relax. And that's what we're going to be addressing today to increase flexibility. So just because you feel it one place doesn't mean it's actually coming from another muscle. If you think about it sort of like a scale, if you've got one side of the scale here, one side here, and each of these is one muscle each, if you've got a really tight muscle on one side, this muscle has to work really hard to pull it back because it's very heavy over on this side of the scale. And so what we want to do is not only get this muscle stronger to help balance that out, but also help increase the flexibility of this muscle to then help balance that out too, to take some of that weight off this muscle. So they always work in pairs, tipping back and forth between. So for instance, in the arm, bicep or tricep work in pairs. If your tricep is really tight, as you're curling up, you might, if you try and tense up your tricep, you can feel it's hard to actually pull it up where you have that shake between the two because you're working against your own muscle, and we don't want that for you. So I'm going to show you some examples of ways you can be stretching the antagonist muscles of your body to help improve that flexibility, improve that range of motion. It's been studied where you actually can help improve your range of motion by stretching the opposite side muscle to then help with that movement. So a big one I've seen is for the hamstrings. A lot of people think, oh, I've got tight hamstrings. They always feel tension in them, like they're so like a guitar string or a bowstring, where it just feels tight and tense. But sometimes what can happen is the hamstrings are actually this weak muscle up here. They're just so pulled on that they feel tense all the time because they've been pushed to their limit. So what we're going to do first is address this muscle on the opposite side. So it's these muscles in the front of your thigh. So I'll show you a way that you can do that. So especially if you have hamstring tension or feel like my hamstrings are really tight all the time, you probably want to look at the antagonist muscle and see, hey, is this actually the tight muscle? And then work on loosening that while you're helping strengthen your hamstrings. So what we're going to do first is we're going to try a quick hamstring stretch because I want you to try it and see how much flexibility you can gain from this. So we're going to try hamstrings first. What you're going to do is lay down on your back. You're going to bring your leg up to the front and straighten your knee as much as you can. Okay? You should hold this, any stretch we're doing, we're going to hold for 20 to 30 seconds. So holding that stretch, you should feel some tension in your hamstrings as we're doing this, but no pain. And try and remember, how straight could I get my knee? How far up could I go? The further up you go, the more of a stretch it's going to be. So you might have a slight bend in your knee where you can't really fully straighten it. If you want to, you can grab underneath your thigh if you don't have something to hold up your leg like that. That's fine. Other leg is going to be straight. Okay? You might feel a little bit of tension in the back all the way to the back of your hip. And bend your knee and relax. So try and remember where you got to on that first stretch for the hamstring. We're going to go back to standing. And we're going to stretch that antagonist muscle and see if that's actually loosening that will help the hamstring move a little bit more effectively. So what we're going to do is you're going to take your foot and put it up on something. If you have a box, a book, a chair, the higher up your foot is, the more of a stretch it's going to be. And what you're going to do from here is I want you to try and push your hips forward. So you can even take your hand and help push forward on the back, right at about your waist. You should feel a stretch right in here in the front of your thigh and hip. So these muscles run from the front of the hip down into the knee. So try and hold that stretch for about 20 to 30 seconds. We're going to do both sides typically, but I'm showing you one side at a time. Make sure it's the same leg that we did the hamstring stretch on. That's the side we're stretching. So pushing forward, you should be able to feel that muscle underneath, right in your glutes, tensing up, pushing your hips forward. And then relax. Now going back to the ground, we're going to retest that hamstring flexibility. So remember how far you could get before? And see if you can go a little bit farther, a little bit easier. Your leg could be a little bit straighter. Now for me, I feel like I can actually get further past my hip because we've actually taken pressure off the hamstrings a little by stretching the front. It feels a little looser. So I find this one is a really good stretch for people who have hamstring tension. Is not just stretching the hamstrings, but stretching the back as well. So we're balancing that out by stretching both sides, so it's not just pulled on over here, but also helping gain flexibility and strengthen the hamstrings. So another way we can do this, if it's not comfortable to lay down, you can go into a kneeling, or you could do this seated in a chair too, putting one foot out in front and then bring your chest out towards the front, towards your toe. And you should still feel that hamstring stretch. We show actually in a chair as well. A lot of different ways of doing this one. So seated in a chair, you can bring your foot forward. If you'd rather not lie on the ground. Same thing though, bring your leg up towards your chest or your chest down towards your leg. And holding that stretch. So always start with that front stretch though. If you want to with the chair, you can put it up on the chair, push your hips forward, feeling that stretch across the front of your hip right in here. Remember, the higher up your foot is, the more of a stretch it's going to be. All right. So the next stretch is for the shoulders. I find that some people have tension in the front of their shoulder right in here. So you've got this muscle called serratus anterior that runs sort of in your armpit into the front of your shoulder. And then muscles back, the complement to that, the antagonist muscle, is right back in here called the rhomboids. Those muscles work together to stabilize your shoulder blade, but commonly the rhomboids get a lot stronger and so it tips it in that rhomboid's favor. So we're going to stretch out those rhomboids, see if we can remove some of that shoulder stiffness. So what you're going to do is you're going to put one hand over the top of the other, and you're going to try and push your shoulders out towards the front. Now you don't want your shoulders to come up. Try and keep your shoulders down and go straight out forward, reaching. You can go to try and reach towards a wall or a post to help give yourself a target. You should feel a stretch right back in here. And it actually can help loosen up this front of the shoulder where it takes some of that pressure off. So pushing out towards the front, holding for 20 seconds. So again, these muscles always work in pairs. We're stretching the antagonist muscle, the muscle that goes the opposite direction. These rhomboids pull backwards, so we're pushing forwards to counter that movement, to stretch out those rhomboids. and relax. You might feel a little bit looser in your shoulders as you're doing this. Now, I would also recommend after you stretch, or not only stretching, but strengthening that protraction muscle, what this is called protraction, going the forward direction. So doing something like 1-inch punches, where you're here pushing into the wall that 1 inch. It's sort of like a push-up, but you're just 1-inch punching off the wall. It's a good starting exercise. It works that serratus anterior, helps build up strength in it. So like I said, we want to not only stretch the heavy side to get it up here, but strengthen the weak side to rebalance it. So I'll show you a couple more of these. If you have any questions, let me know in the chat or the comments. One that I found for me after I got in a car accident, my neck was so tight here in the front and then so weak in the back. My head was actually like this for a while. I had to work to re-strengthen and adjust it to rework the muscles in my neck, because I got hit so hard that it actually damaged a lot of the musculature up here. So I found for me helped a lot for stretching these in here. A lot of people have neck tension back in here. Sometimes that can come from tight muscles in the front. These are the antagonist muscles. The sternocleidomastoid pulls down and forward, and the extensors pull up and back. So they feel it here, but actually it's tight in here. So what you can do is take your fingertips and just gently press up on your chin, feeling a stretch right here in the front of your neck. And then hold for 20 seconds. Now only go to where you're comfortable. It's a little hard to talk in this position. So don't feel like you have to really crank on your neck, just gentle pressure. And relax. All these should go to where you're not in pain, but you feel just a light tension, so you're actually causing the muscle to have to adapt a little bit. So I found that worked really well for me after I got in my car accident. It really helped loosen up a lot of the tension I had in my neck. Another one that I find is for low back and these muscles in here. So I feel this in here in the back, but actually the muscle, the antagonist muscle on the opposite side, so is these interior muscles in the adductors. So I feel tight sort of in the side of the hips, or one could feel tight in the side of the hips, but you're actually needing to stretch in here. So I'll show you a way we can deal with that. There's a lot of different ways of doing this one. The one I found I like is called a V-sit. So you're bringing your legs out to the sides as far as you can. Now, if you need to, you can lean back to reduce this stretch. If it's so intense, then you can bring your arms back here to support you and just hold that position. But if you want to increase that stretch and you feel like you can go further, where you're like, you know what, I'm not feeling so much tension that it's painful, you can bring your hands out towards the front, reaching out straight between your toes, feeling a stretch right in here on the inside of your thigh. Also, bringing your legs further apart will increase that stretch. If you want to, you can do it facing something you can grab onto and help pull yourself forward. Trying to keep that back straight though, so you're pulling straight towards the front, feeling that stretch on the inside of your thigh. Now, if you don't want to sit on the ground, another way you can do this is using a chair, doing the same sort of thing. Actually, I'm gonna do this way. So, same movement, still a V-sit. You're gonna bring your legs out to the sides and then leaning forward towards the front. There we go. V-sit, leaning forward towards the front. You're still stretching. Whoa. Careful not to fall off the chair as you're doing this. That would be bad. And leaning forward, feeling a stretch in the inside of your thigh in here. You might actually feel tension being released in the back, in the glute muscles in the low back. Might help feel some of that tension go away as you do this. All right. So with any of these stretches, you'd want to go to where you don't feel pain. You just feel a tension in that muscle to where and then as you do it, you should feel that tension release a little bit. So holding for 20 to 30 seconds, however long it takes for you to feel that start to relax a little bit. That's where I would go for. Anyway, so that is antagonist muscles. I hope that you find which muscles are causing you that tension so you can help balance out that muscular system. Again, muscles always work in pairs. I would recommend not only stretching the tense side, but strengthening the weak side, because that's where you're going to get the best benefit, is not where you're strong and healthy and able to move fluidly at each joint. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and I hope to see you guys next time. I host these live streams at 2 o'clock on Pacific time.